Hey, everyone! Do you remember the first time you saw a pair of Nikes? Maybe you were at a track meet, or playing basketball at the park, or just walking through the mall. Whatever the moment, you probably didn't realize that this iconic shoe had a pretty unusual start. See? There was this guy named Bill Bowerman. He was a track coach at the University of Oregon, and he wanted to make the perfect running shoe. Problem was, back then, shoes were made for walking, not running. They were clunky, uncomfortable, and definitely not what athletes needed to compete at the highest level. So, in 1964, he teamed up with a young track athlete named Phil Knight to create a shoe that would change everything. Now, these guys weren't some big business. In fact, their first warehouse was the trunk of Phil's car. They would drive from track meet to track meet, open up that trunk, and try to sell their shoes to anyone who would listen. But it wasn't easy. Days were long, sales were small, and most people didn't even care about their shoes. But Bowerman and Knight had something that not everyone had: belief. They believed that with enough hard work and dedication, they could change the game. So Bowerman went to work in his garage, experimenting with different materials and designs. He tried putting rubber on the bottom of his wife's waffle iron to make the perfect sole. And when Knight heard this story, he couldn't help but smile. It reminded him of their early days, how they started out in the garage, just two guys with a dream and a pair of scissors, trying to cut out a piece of the shoe business. But they faced rejection after rejection, and most people didn't believe in their dream. But Knight kept going. He traveled all over the country, meeting with shoe retailers, wearing down miles of shoe leather, and making countless cold calls. It was tough, but he knew that if he didn't try, their dream would die. Slowly but surely, things started to change. More and more runners began to take notice of the new shoes. People loved the way they looked and felt, and most importantly, how they performed. Orders started coming in, and Bowerman and Knight began to expand their business. They officially named the company Nike in 1971, and 2 years later, they went public. Finally, all their hard work was paying off. But as Nike grew, so did the competition. New companies started popping up, trying to copy their success. Some were bigger, some had more money, but none had the heart and soul of Nike. Because while other companies were focused on the bottom line, Nike was focused on the runner. They continued to innovate, developing new technologies and working with top athletes to make their products the best they could be. They also expanded beyond running shoes, creating apparel and equipment that helped athletes of all kinds perform at their best. Today, Nike is one of the most powerful sports brands in the world. But no matter how big they get, they will never forget where they started. Two guys in a garage trying to change the game. So next time you see a pair of Nikes, take a moment to appreciate the journey that brought them to you. The rejections, the setbacks, the countless hours of work that went into creating one of the most iconic shoes of all time. And speaking of journeys, I want to talk about your journey. Have you ever dreamed of starting your own business or making something great, but are afraid to take the first step? Well, I'm here to tell you that the time is now. You don't need a fancy degree or a lot of money to make your dreams come true. All you need is a good idea and the guts to see it through. And who knows? Maybe one day your story will be told just like Nike. So what are you waiting for? Go out there and make your dreams happen. Just do it!